In this tutorial, we will explore the ecoinvent database using an existing clay brick process as our example in SimaPro. By the end of this video, you will be able to do three important things. First, you will understand the difference between market, infrastructure, and transformation datasets in the ecoinvent database. Second, you will learn how to analyze the individual components of an ecoinvent dataset and understand what is actually included in a process. And third, you will learn how to compare two different ecoinvent datasets and interpret the differences between them. So, let's open SimaPro and start exploring the ecoinvent database using our clay brick example. Now, let's look at the infrastructure database in ecoinvent. When you open SimaPro, you can find this type of display. You can either start work with an existing project or a new project. For me, I want to start with a new project. So I created new project and name it Practice. Since I am going to analyze ecoinvent database only, I deliberately did not select other libraries. And don't forget to check Methodology tab. Now, let me click Process, and within Process, check any infrastructure database. For example, I clicked Process, then Material, then Construction, then Brick. And within Brick, I selected one of the infrastructure database. Infrastructure datasets represent the equipment, buildings, and physical assets required to provide a service or carry out a process. For example, if we are analyzing a clay brick production process, the infrastructure may include the brick kiln, production machinery, or other long-term equipment used in the manufacturing process. The important point is that infrastructure is not the material or energy directly consumed during each production cycle. Instead, it represents the capital equipment and infrastructure needed to make the production process possible. In ecoinvent, these datasets can account for things such as the materials used to manufacture the equipment, its construction, lifetime, and eventual disposal. So when you see an infrastructure dataset, think of it as this brick infrastructure database is used when you are interested to conduct LCA of brick manufacturing plant rather than brick production. Of course, infrastructure data is considered in the LCA of brick production. Now, let's see how an infrastructure dataset is converted according to the functional unit of our study. Here, for example, we can see the land occupation associated with the infrastructure required for brick production. The total land occupied by this infrastructure is approximately 3,443,263 square meters. We can also see that the lifetime of this infrastructure is around 50 years. But our LCA does not usually need the environmental impact of the entire infrastructure over its complete lifetime. Instead, we need the impact per functional unit, in this case per kilogram of brick produced. So SimaPro first estimates the total land occupation and its associated environmental impact over the infrastructure's lifetime. Then this impact is allocated across the total amount of bricks produced during that lifetime. Finally, the result is expressed per kilogram of brick production. In simple terms, total infrastructure impact over its lifetime divided by total production over its lifetime equals infrastructure impact per kilogram of brick. So even though the infrastructure is a large, long-term asset, its environmental burden can be converted into the same functional unit as the rest of our LCA model. And that is how SimaPro incorporates infrastructure into the final environmental impact of 1 kilogram of brick production. Now, let's understand the difference between a transformation database and a market database using a practical example. Let's take the Adobe Brick Rest of the World dataset. First, open the Adobe Brick Market dataset. To understand how the market dataset differs from the transformation dataset, we'll compare it with the corresponding Adobe Brick Transformation dataset. Click Compare and then add Adobe Brick from the Transformation category. Now, select a suitable impact assessment method and click Calculate. Here, we can see an interesting difference. For almost all environmental impact categories, the market dataset shows a significantly higher environmental burden than the transformation dataset. But why is that? To understand the reason, let's look inside both datasets and identify which activities or processes are contributing to this additional burden in the market dataset. First, open the Adobe Brick market dataset again and generate the network diagram. Export the network diagram and save it to your desktop. Now, go back and open the Adobe Brick transformation dataset. Calculate the results and export its network diagram as well. Now, let's compare the two diagrams. As you can see, there are several transportation activities and associated fuel consumption processes that appear in the market dataset but are not included in the transformation dataset. So, what does this mean? A transformation dataset primarily represents the process of transforming inputs into a product. In contrast, a market dataset represents the supply of that product to the market and can include additional activities, such as transportation from the production site to the market. For example, imagine that Adobe bricks are produced at location A, while the market is located at location B. The transformation dataset describes the production of the brick at location A. The market dataset, however, can additionally account for the transportation of those bricks from location A to location B, using a truck, for example. That additional transportation and the fuel consumed during transportation is one of the reasons why the market dataset can show a higher environmental burden than the corresponding transformation dataset.